Price on May 26th. Then return for laughs with comedian Joel McHale on June 2nd. Hollywood Casino at Charlestown Races.
Tonight, President Trump tears up the Iran nuclear deal. The president pulling America out of the deal. Tonight, leveling new sanctions against Iran. The Iranian people watching it live. President Trump ignoring America's allies who urged him not to do it. And tonight, Iran's new warning already. Also breaking, the resignation, official just a short time ago. New York's Attorney General is out. Several women accusing him of physical harm and what he allegedly said to them if they ever left him. The FBI on the scene at this hour. Authorities digging right now for up to 6 missing girls. Where they're looking, our team is there. The volcano disaster growing tonight. The lava incinerating neighborhoods, more homes gone. And authorities tonight saying you must go. That deadly military plane crash, the C-130, and that nosedive. Tonight, what's now been released, and you will hear the calls for help. And Made in America as we travel across the country all this month. Last night, Boston's Fenway Park. Tonight, Chicago, Detroit, and right outside New York City. What they're growing for your mom.
This is ABC World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, and it's great to have you with us here on a very busy Tuesday night. And we begin with President Trump's major announcement today, being watched all over the world, pulling the U.S. out of the Iran nuclear deal and imposing tough new sanctions on Iran instead. The president, in a speech seen here in the U.S. and carried live in Iran, calling the deal disastrous. America's allies had urged the president not to do this. They are reacting tonight, and so is Iran, already with a new threat. ABC's chief White House correspondent Jonathan Karl leading us off.
Defying our allies and keeping a campaign promise, President Trump is taking the United States out of the Iran nuclear deal.
The fact is, this was a horrible, one-sided deal that should have never, ever been made. It didn't bring calm, it didn't bring peace, and it never will.
This is no half measure. The president declared he is reimposing sanctions waived as part of the deal, all of them.
America will not be held hostage to nuclear blackmail.
Under the Iran nuclear deal, Iran agreed to shut down its production of weapons-grade uranium and allowed regular inspections by the International Atomic Energy Agency, which says Iran has stuck by its side of the deal. But the president says it falls short, that it doesn't prevent Iran from supporting terrorism or building up its missile program.
At the heart of the Iran deal was a giant fiction that a murderous regime desired only a peaceful nuclear energy program.
Anguished by today's decision, former President Obama. The Iran deal, his chief foreign policy accomplishment. Today, in a statement, he warns the United States could eventually be left with a losing choice between a nuclear-armed Iran or another war in the Middle East. And tonight, from Iran's president, an ominous threat. Hassan Rouhani announcing he has ordered Iran scientists to prepare to start enriching uranium again if necessary. When I recently asked the president about that prospect, he answered with a threat of his own.
But the Iranians say they'll restart their nuclear program if the deal is...
We'll find out. You'll find out about that.
Are you concerned about that?
It won't be so easy for them to restart.
Mr. President, are you...
They're not going to be restarting anything. They restart it, they're going to have big problems, bigger than they've ever had before.
Today, the president cast his actions on Iran as a message to North Korea.
The United States no longer makes empty threats. When I make promises, I keep them.
The president announced Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is in North Korea again tonight, laying the groundwork for the much-anticipated nuclear summit with Kim Jong-un.
A lot happening at once. John Karl with us live from the White House tonight. And John, Iran had agreed to those robust nuclear inspections. International inspectors found that Iran was in compliance with the deal, and the president's still pulling out today. Now North Korea on the agenda. How's the president going to convince North Korea to agree to even the same level of inspections Iran was already allowing?
David, that may be the single most important unanswered question as the president goes into his meeting with Kim Jong-un. After all, North Korea already has nuclear weapons, and it is the most isolated, secretive nation on Earth.
John Karl leading us off tonight. John, thank you. American allies had urged the president not to do this, to stay in the deal. Our chief foreign correspondent, Terry Moran, live in London tonight. And Terry, our allies already responding tonight?
That's right, David. They are dismayed and bewildered right now. You saw the European leaders, President Macron of France, getting the red carpet treatment at the White House. Chancellor Merkel of Germany meeting with President Trump, trying to change his mind because they and every other country that signed this deal think this deal is working. They say it's put Iran's nuclear program in handcuffs, and it's been inspected, and it should continue. There's also a sense of loss almost, that as they go forward trying to forge their own deal, America under President Trump isn't a reliable partner in these big international agreements like this or NAFTA or the Paris Climate Accords. And their big fear that what he really means by a solution to the problem is regime change in Tehran, and that could make the whole Middle East a much more dangerous place.
And Terry, one more question while we have you. Viewers will remember our trip to Iran. We witnessed the sanctions, the crippling effect on the Iranian people before this nuclear deal was even negotiated. It was just days before the negotiations began, in fact. The crowds waiting for medicine, cancer treatment. We heard President Trump today telling the Iranian people, the people of America stand with you. But how is this decision being received on the streets of Tehran tonight?
Anger and defiance, David. They do not believe that claim. Social media in Iran just lit up with a lot of anti-American tweets. That's no surprise, saying that America's arrogant and can't be trusted. But a lot of tweets on those issues you just mentioned. People concerned about the life-saving medications that they or their parents get. People worried about hardliners in Iran cracking down even harsher than they have before, and that fear of war. David?
Terry Moran with us tonight on this as well. Terry, thank you. We're going to turn next here to breaking news just coming in a short time ago. The lawyer for Stormy Daniels tonight, now claiming that he has documents proving that the president's personal attorney, Michael Cohen, received about $500,000 from a Russian oligarch after the election. Of course, the question being asked tonight, what was that money for? Let's get right to ABC's Chief Justice Correspondent Pierre Thomas with what he's learned tonight. Pierre, good evening.
That's right. Stormy Daniels' attorney Michael Avenatti released a statement, David, laying out a series of banking transactions, including 8 alleged payments by Cohen by that Russian oligarch, who is very close to Vladimir Putin. But tonight is unclear what those funds were for, and we do not know how Avenatti got access to those records or whether they're authentic. We've reached out to Cohen's attorney, and we've not yet heard back. We do know that the Russian oligarch has already been interviewed by the special counsel's team of Robert Mueller. David?
Pierre Thomas with us from Washington. Pierre, thank you. Next here, the major resignation that took effect just moments ago right here in New York City. New York Attorney General Eric Schneiderman is out of a job tonight after a New Yorker investigation detailed allegations of violence and abuse by several women he'd been involved with. It is a stunning fall tonight for a man who said he was a champion and advocate for women. Here's ABC's Lindsay Davis.
New York's highest-ranking law enforcement officer dethroned tonight. Another casualty from the Me Too movement he so vehemently supported, taking legal action against Harvey Weinstein, making public statements like this.
We must reimagine a world where predators are exposed and held to account, and survivors are supported and empowered at every level.
4 women now tell New Yorker magazine that Schneiderman is actually an abuser who physically attacked them. 2 of the women, Michelle Manning Barish and Tanya Selva-Ratnam, spoke on the record, alleging he repeatedly hit them, often after drinking, frequently in bed, and never with their consent, and say that he threatened to kill them if they broke up with him.
These women talk about slapping, hitting, choking. We reviewed medical records and spoke to a doctor who said that an ear was bleeding long after the incident.
Just 3 weeks ago, Schneiderman tweeted support for those who spoke up about the sexual harassment they endured at the hands of powerful men. Now Barish tells the magazine, you cannot be a champion of women when you're hitting them and choking them in bed, adding, Schneiderman told her, I am the law.
No one is above the law. These women should have their day in court.
Schneiderman initially responded to the allegation saying, in the privacy of intimate relationships, I have engaged in role-playing and other consensual sexual activity. I have not assaulted anyone. Then, just 3 hours after the article was posted, he submitted his resignation, saying while he strongly contests the accusations, they will effectively prevent me from leading the office's work at this critical time.
And Lindsay Davis here with us tonight. I know Lindsay and the team talking with Ronan Farrow, one of the writers of this investigation at the New Yorker. And in the meantime, the governor said no one is above the law today, and the Manhattan DA is now investigating possible criminal charges here?
That's right, David. And based on the allegations, there are several possible crimes here, including assault and harassment. And some of these allegations would fall within the statute of limitations.
All right, Lindsay, you'll stay on it. Thanks very much. In the meantime, the volcano emergency in Hawaii, we continue to follow at this hour. In fact, new vents now opening up in the hardest hit community. Some areas still off limits tonight. This National Guardsman testing the air for those toxic fumes. And some areas are now simply inaccessible because lava has now blocked the roads. ABC's Kana Whitworth on the scene again tonight for us.
Wow! Tonight on Hawaii's Big Island, residents on edge, bracing for more lava flows after 2 new cracks in the earth opened up overnight. The tropical forest now a river of ash and red-hot lava. Roads slowly being consumed by a wall of molten rock. The number of destroyed homes rising overnight to 35.
You can see the lava has destroyed that home right there, and it's also completely taken over this road. In some places, it is stacked some 20 feet high, and you can feel the heat radiating from it.
While the lava flows are quiet for now, hazardous fumes are still being released into the air. The National Guard taking constant readings.
We have to turn back because it's getting too high.
How many times have you had to turn back since you've been inside?
There's been, I believe, 3 times.
Lines of cars filled with families waiting to see if their homes are still standing. Nearly 1,800 still displaced.
What's the saddest thing for you right now?
Seeing people, I saw 3 houses burn yesterday with my own eyes, burn right down to the ground.
Scientists warning there's no telling when or where the lava could start erupting again.
Even though we're in kind of a quiet period, a lull, there's very much the possibility that activity could restart at any time.
David, geologists I spoke with said that they saw a rise in activity on their models this morning, and that activity is actually moving west, creating new cracks in major highways. It's a situation they are monitoring 24 hours a day. David?
Kana Whitworth from a very rainy Hawaii live for us again tonight. Kana, thank you. Next here this evening, the Air Force tonight grounding every one of its planes for a one-day review after that string of deadly crashes. Of course, the most recent, that horrific crash near Savannah. You'll remember that image, that C-130 plunging to earth. Shortly after takeoff, 9 crew members were killed. And tonight we are now hearing the frantic calls to 911 from witnesses just now released. Here's ABC's Steve Osunsami.
After this deadly crash of a military cargo plane seen here falling out of the sky outside Savannah's International Airport, the Air Force tonight says it's grounding every single aircraft for a day and ordering service members to go through a safety review.
Where's the emergency? The plane just crashed on plane 1.
The crash in Georgia last week has now underlined concerns about the safety of military aircraft.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
In the calls for help from civilians on the ground, you could hear the disbelief.
Highway 21, a military jet has just crashed onto Highway 21. A military jet just crashed? A military jet just crashed onto Highway 21. All I know is I saw it take off from the airport, and I noticed that one of the propellers wasn't turning.
9 service members from the Puerto Rican National Guard were killed. Some of these callers on or near the highway watching this were lucky to be alive.
Holy all right, time to get out of here.
No word yet on what caused this crash, and so far the Air Force is the only branch of service ordering its troops to take a day off for this safety review. David?
Steve Osunsami on this story again for us. Thank you, Steve. And now to the primary showdown in 4 states tonight: Indiana, Ohio, West Virginia, and North Carolina. And it comes, of course, ahead of November's crucial midterms. It was last night here we reported on one West Virginia Senate candidate, Don Blankenship, a former coal mining executive. You'll remember that deadly disaster in his coal mine. He now says it was caused by the federal government. Tonight, ABC's chief national affairs correspondent Tom Yamas right there on the ground. And one voter telling Tom that he lost family members in that mine, still voting for Blankenship.
We're going to go everywhere.
Tonight, he's on parole and on the ballot in West Virginia.
I'm basically Trumpier than Trump.
But the feeling's not mutual. President Trump urging voters to reject coal baron Don Blankenship, tweeting, "Can't win the general election in your state. No way."
McConnell has to go to drain the swamp.
Blankenship has been accused of race baiting when he attacked the wife of Senator Mitch McConnell, Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao, in this campaign ad.
Mitch has gotten rich. In fact, his China family has given him tens of millions of dollars.
Were you trying to inject race into the discussion here?
No, I was trying to inject the fact that we've lost nearly half our jobs in West Virginia and they went to China.
Blankenship was released from prison last year.
Blamed in part for the death of 29 of his miners who died in the Upper Big Branch explosion. Within the past 24 hours, he repeated his claim it's the federal government that is to blame because he says